Dan Wetzel was going to be at the hearing, I believe, this morning. Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports columnist, New York Times best-selling author. What happened here? What happened in the last, 12, 14, 16 hours here?
Well, the litigation is sort of a reason to negotiate generally in these types of things. And so the Big Ten and Michigan and Harbaugh, the parties here, were going back and forth all week with different proposals on how to not go in front of a judge, because you go in front of the judge, anything can happen. Either side could win or lose. So they basically reached a settlement. Harbaugh and Michigan will accept the 3 games. The Big Ten will publicly announce that Jim Harbaugh, there's no proof, there's no information that says Jim Harbaugh knew what was going on, and they will drop their investigation. And so obviously the Big Ten gets their 3-game suspension of Harbaugh, which is what they wanted. The part that Harbaugh and Michigan get is some certainty that going forward, should they get past Ohio State, get into the postseason, and say some other piece of information comes out, some other evidence, some kind of question, because this is a program penalty, not a Harbaugh. Mm-hmm. They're not saying Harbaugh did it. They're saying Michigan did it. So something else comes out, and there are so many unanswered questions here still.
How do you drop an investigation, though, that you didn't really investigate? I'm guessing that this was the NCAA, not the Big Ten.
The term, I agree. They're basically saying they will not suspend. They will not take further action is sort of the way it would go. So let's say they find out, I don't know, there's more games involved, or someone else might have known, or like we find out so just some different things. It's not a major thing, but you don't have that uncertainty that the Big Ten might add a 4th game to it. So this was the deal. They're not going to court. It's not a major legal drama. This was not A Few Good Men. This was not Harbaugh's exciting Judge Judy. It was just, all right, this is what we're doing. We're moving on. Everybody let's just concentrate on coaching football instead of doing this. I don't think they wanted to be just getting it past them. So that was the decision they made. Whether it was a good one or not for anybody, I have no idea.
What's the NCAA do, if anything?
They continue to investigate. So they're investigating, and the investigation could likely extend past the season, or it's certainly going to keep certainly the regular season. They still want to interview people. There's a lot going on. And then when they have a process, they find out what they are going to allege. They give a notice of allegations to Michigan. Michigan then has 90 days to respond to that. And then there's like a 45-day response. And then you move on to, do you negotiate there, or do you take it to the full? There's a long process, man. The NCAA loves rules, processes, processes about rules about process. So it took 6 years on the FBI basketball scandals. Like, I was on here 6 years ago talking about that. They finally ended them all and didn't really come up with anything. So it's a process. So the NCAAs could extend certainly into the summer. It could be a year from now. They're still going on that. So what the Big Ten was doing was stepping in and saying, we got to punish him right away. We cannot let this wait. And I thought that was a tough precedent. That they may regret that, but that was the decision they made. So here we go. The NCAA is going to continue their look, when there's an ongoing investigation, in this case, Michigan, no one's saying Connor Stalions didn't do it, including Connor Stalions. Okay. He hasn't ever come out and said in a statement or anything. He's not talking to anyone, but he didn't come out in a statement saying, I didn't do this. This is crazy. There's a simple explanation here. So when you have an ongoing investigation into something, the only information coming out is going to be either negative or neutral. Like, well, we didn't find anyone new. It's not going to be like there's an exoneration here. It's just highly improbable there's an exoneration that someone isn't bringing. So as it goes forward, you run risk when you're being investigated that something else negative will come out. It's just unlikely this is going to. I understand Michigan's call for due process and all those things, and due process is always a good thing to follow. But it's not like this due process has much likelihood of all of a sudden at the end of this going, hey, turns out nothing happened.
But they cheated.
Right.
Who?
That's why they're not going to come up with, they didn't cheat.
Yeah.
Turns out he didn't buy the tickets. Like, yes.
Yes.
So that's why if you're the defendant, if you will, that the investigation isn't going to clear you. It's either going to be neutral. This is it. Or it's going to be negative, whether that's a little or a lot.
Yeah. Dan
so
Wetzel,
they broke the rule. That's it.
Dan Wetzel from Yahoo Sports columnist, New York Times best-selling author. If I gave you one question for Harbaugh, what are you asking?
I don't know that Harbaugh. I kind of am convinced Harbaugh didn't have any knowledge of this. So if I had to ask Harbaugh a question, it would be, why? I think what Harbaugh is guilty of. I'm not really here to berate him, but why didn't you stay on top of your staff more about this is not the kind of thing we do? This has been a nightmare for Jim Harbaugh. If he indeed did not know how Connor Stalions was getting the information, if every other coaching staff in the country is able to get this to steal the signs via videotapes and game film and getting the information from their friends, which pretty much everyone does, why did you think you should go this route? And part of it is you have these staffs are 70, 100 people. You have all these 20-something super aggressive, super competitive people in your staff in that grad assistant room. You have to walk in that grad assistant room every week and say, any one of you break any rule. None of you are important enough to break a rule. Any of you break any rule, bring any heat on us, I'll end your career. You have to put the fear in them. And clearly this guy did not act that way. He was acting in an extremely brazen manner to break a rule that had limited advantages to it. And that is what's taking him down.
If Michigan wins the national title, will you recognize them as national champs?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't. Look, they all have each other's signs. Let me tell you, Dan, this reminds me of Deflategate in a lot of ways. There was a lot of excitement. Oh my God, the footballs might be deflated. All this. Oh, this is how Tom Brady and the Patriots win. It's the footballs. It's the footballs. Everyone's screaming. Tom Brady shouldn't play in the Super Bowl. I mean, the takes were outrageous. I sat in federal court and watched lawyers basically argue now whether the football were or were not deflated. They never really proved they were even deflated, but they were arguing essentially whether Tom Brady was good at football. It was because one side was arguing he's cheating and that's why he's good. And the other side's going, no, he's Tom Brady. And so whatever happened with the footballs were fine after that. And he won like 4 more Super Bowls with 2 teams. So this is cheating. They broke the rule. There should be a punishment. But the idea that this is some overwhelming advantage, everybody has everybody's place. The coaches staff share what they find with their friends on the other staff. Everyone's got each other's plays. Is this an unfair advantage? Is over the top? Absolutely. I'm not exonerating it at all. Punish them. But to sit there and be like, we got to ban them from the playoff or you're not a real champion. They don't have the plays right now. If they win all these games, they're absolutely. I can't overstate. It's a thing, but I'm not going to overstate that this is the greatest crime in the history of football.
Thank you, Dan. Have a great weekend.
Take care.
That's Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports columnist, New York Times best-selling author.